Hey guys, welcome back to 155 Books. My name is Shannon and today I'm going to be sharing a non-spoiler review for The Million Pieces of Neena Gill by Emma Smith-Barton. I recently read this book from Mentalhealthathon and I gave it 5 stars, and I knew straight away after finishing it that I wanted to do a full review on this book, as it is the only YA book that features mental health that I've read that does it well. And I think more people should read this, more people should know about this book because it was fantastic. So I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of the book, some trigger warnings, and then go into what I enjoyed about the characters, the storyline and the writing. So if you weren't aware, this book follows a 16-ish-year-old girl called Neena Gill, who's sort of going through a difficult time as her brother disappeared, and it follows her sort of dealing with that and her family dealing with that sort of 10 months after his disappearance. And obviously it follows her deterioration of her mental health through this difficult time, and it follows just Neena and a 16-year-old sort of trying to live her normal life. She's going through exams, she's going to school, and there's a love interest and like friendships, and Neena is a Christian Pakistani, so it kind of follows issues she's having with her family to do with that as well. So altogether it's just a really good young adult story, but the mental health representation in this is what makes it fantastic. So some trigger warnings for this for psychosis, anxiety and panic attacks. So I'm just going to jump right in and start off with the characters. Obviously the main protagonist is Neena, and from the get-go you love her because she's just this young 16-year-old girl trying to like get on with her life despite everything that's sort of happened family-wise. She's trying to do well in her exams, she's trying to fit in well at school and trying to get the attention of a boy she likes. So because she's just like a young teenage girl, you want to protect her, and especially because you maybe know that things aren't always going to be all happy and wonderful from the get-go. You're like, oh, let's protect this girl because she needs protecting. The other characters that I kind of enjoyed sort of were the parents, although at times they really annoyed me, but I think because you're following it from Neena's point of view, it annoys you as if your own parents are annoying you. And it was really interesting to see how the parents in a young adult book are also dealing with the disappearance of their son. So that was interesting to sort of see that as well. And obviously her friends at school. Her main friend, again, at times really annoyed me, but then you could tell that she was actually trying to look after Neena. But yeah, there was a really large range of characters in this book and I really enjoyed that. But now let's get into the storyline, as the storyline is what I loved most about this book. It was just so good. So the story itself is really well paced. I would say it's particularly fast-paced, as I could not put this book down, and I haven't read a fast-paced book in a while, so that was exciting to sort of be like, oh, I can't put this down, I need to know what's like happening. And obviously the mental health representation in this is one of my favourite things about the entire book. So this book covers a range of different mental health illnesses and issues, including depression, anxiety, panic attacks and psychosis, and they are all done really well. What I also really enjoyed about this was not just like the range of the mental health illnesses and issues, is that it was across different characters as well. It wasn't all in like the main character, and the characters with the mental health issues sort of talk to one another about that, which is something, but in like a uncomfortable way, which is something that you don't get a lot in young adult books, let alone like normal books. So again, love that. And this book shows you what it's like to be on medication and have therapy for your mental illness, and it's just again done so well, especially like the therapy side of things. Again, it was uncomfortable, but you could see how in the end it does sort of like help with the character. In terms of the medication as well, you could see the side effects of the medication, something that is not talked about like at all in any books I've read about mental health, and it's something that does need to be talked more about because the side effects of antidepressants especially are insane and no one ever talks about that. because you're dealing with a mental health illness anyway, and you're trying to take tablets to make you better, but the side effects are so horrendous sometimes that it makes people not want to take them, and it's not, like I said, talked about in normal society, let alone like represented in books. So I adored that when that was like put into the storyline. And this book shows you what it's like to live with a mental illness, but then also have, like in the long term, but also have a short-term mental health issue, and the fact that they're connected. Because a lot of the time with people who have depression, if they go through a really bad depressive episode, they can sometimes get anxiety, and also the other way around, if you've got really bad anxiety, like depression can like weave its way in. And that's not something that's talked about much either, but it is in this book. It kind of was showing you that you can live with this for your entire life, and then sometimes this other mental health issue or illness can like pop out of nowhere if you're having like a particularly bad time. But if you talk about it and deal with it, that's not going to stay with you for the rest of your life. And I just thought that was really good. But one of my favourite things about the mental health representation in this book was that it shows you how long it can take to recover, especially if you're taking medication, because some people assume that as soon as you start taking medication for your mental health, like, it goes away and you wake up the next morning and you're fine, and that is not true. And even if you don't take medication, obviously recovery can take a long time, so it's very wrong to just assume that if you've sorted the issue out that was maybe causing you to have like anxiety or depression, that the next day you wake up and you're fine. That is not true. It takes a long time to get back to what is deemed as normal. And it shows you in this book that you can go through something really bad, be put on medication, and it does take like time, and that's okay. So that's mainly what I loved about the storyline and mental health representation. Obviously the storyline itself, like the young adult kind of storyline, was also really enjoyable, and that's probably one of the reasons why I couldn't put this down. But I don't want to give away many plot points because it will ruin it for you. But on top of loving the characters and the mental health representation, the writing I also adored. So it's really easy to read, which I always love. But Emma Smith-Barton did something really, really clever with the writing of this book. So obviously this book deals mainly with psychosis, and like I've already mentioned, because it's dealing with a teenage girl who's going through something sort of like that's gone wrong in her life with her brother disappearing, you can see when you're reading it certain things that she is doing that you know isn't normal or deemed as normal, and you can tell it's like the deterioration of her mental health. But all of the other people that are surrounded her, like her teachers, her parents, her friends, are all like, oh, it's fine, she's just like acting out, or she's just feeling this way or doing this because of everything that's going on in her life at the moment. And you're screaming at this book, being like, can nobody tell this girl is not okay? Because Neena herself also doesn't really realise what's happening to her. But not only that, Emma Smith-Barton has written this in a specific way to sort of show you that you're reading this from a protagonist who is dealing with psychosis. And it's so, so clever. And like, I kind of guessed some parts, and then other parts I was like, oh damn, I see what you did there. And it was just so clever. And I'm going to end by telling you my favourite scene in this book. And it's when Neena looks into a broken mirror and sees the million pieces of herself, and just the imagery was so powerful for when that happened in the storyline and the moment in time that it happens, and just the way it's written. And I was just like, the imagery is just so powerful, and in a young adult book I wasn't expecting that. And at that moment I just knew this book was going to be 5 stars. So I would highly, highly recommend this if you want to educate yourself, or maybe read a young adult book with mental health representation, because it was just so perfect. It will make you cry. At times I did find it kind of difficult to read towards the end, just because it kept like hitting me in the chest, and I was like, breathe, it's fine. So I just took my time with the ending. But this book was just so powerful, and I think that more people who read young adult books, that want to read young adult books about mental health, should definitely be reading this one and not the other ones that we shall not name. Please let me know in the comments if you've read this book and what your thoughts were on it, as I would love to discuss this book with a couple of people. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye!